Let us start with chapter 4. Now, starting this chapter, we are going to look at the balance sheet items, asset side in detail. Now, in chapter 4, we are going to go in detail and zoom into cash and look at some important parts of the cash account. After which, we will briefly look at short-term investments in chapter 5 and also look at accounts receivable. So these are the two items that you will look at in chapter 5, and then after which we will go to chapter 6, which is on merchandise inventory, where you will learn methods of inventory such as first in first out and last in first out. And then we go into fixed assets, which would be long-term assets and depreciation associated with long-term assets. So this is approximately the roadmap for chapter 4, chapter 5, chapter 6, and chapter 7. And in today's recording, we are going to focus on cash, and here the main focus is going to be on bank reconciliation. This is our main focus. Let us start with bank reconciliation. Now, bank reconciliation simply happens because the balance of cash in the bank account is different from the balance of cash in the company's own records. So, the balance of cash in the bank account is different The balance of cash in the bank account is different from the balance of cash in the company's own records. Now, why is this different? If you have your own checking account, you know that the balance of cash in your checkbook often does not equal the balance of cash in your bank account. Why is that? One possibility that is that you or your bank have made a recording error. But more likely though, you've written a check or have cash receipts that haven't yet reached the bank, or maybe the bank has made an adjustment that you are not yet aware of. So basically what's happening is now between these two accounts, there are leads and there are lags. And we are trying to reconcile these time leads and lags. Let's just talk about this as time leads and lags. And we are trying to reconcile this. And there are some basic rules we follow to do the reconciliation. So let's look at reconciliation in greater detail. So let's start with the bank's cash balance. And let's look at company's cash balance. Now, the bank's cash balance is the balance per the bank statement. So you start off with the beginning balance per what's in the bank balance. Okay, so beginning balance per bank statement. And then you add what the bank is not aware of, that the company is already aware of. The company's accountant is already aware of a few things which the bank is not yet aware of. The first thing is deposits outstanding. Now, this means that the company has received some checks on its accounts receivable from its customers for credit transactions, and these are in transit to the bank, and the bank has not yet credited the balance in the bank statement. So the company is aware of it, but the bank is not aware of it. There is this basic lag or difference in timing, and therefore you add deposits outstanding. After that, you subtract checks outstanding. Now, deposits outstanding can also be called deposits in transit. This is another word for it. And checks outstanding are the opposite of deposits in transit or deposits outstanding. And what I mean by that is deposits are the monies received by the company in the form of checks that is in transit to the bank, and the bank's not yet aware of it, and it's about to be credited. The checks outstanding, on the other hand, are checks written by the company, and the company is aware of it. The company is the originator of the check, but the bank is not yet aware of it. So we have to subtract those checks outstanding from the beginning balance per the bank statement. After that, it is also possible that the bank has made some errors that have to be adjusted. Now, this is something that can go either way. Now, if the bank has subtracted more than what it should have, we add it back. If the bank has added more than it should have, we subtract it back. So once we adjust for these three things, then we get what is known as the adjusted balance or the reconciled balance. Now, on the company side, the company starts off with a beginning balance as well. Now, this beginning balance includes the deposit outstanding and the checks outstanding. So we do not adjust for anything here which says deposits outstanding or checks outstanding. We adjust for things that the bank is aware of, or the amounts that the bank is aware of that the company is not yet aware of. For example, the bank might have credited interest, and the bank already has included that in its beginning balance here, but this is not included in the beginning balance here in the company's cash balance, so we have to add it, interest received. So this has been credited by the bank already, but the company is not aware. So there is a lag that the company is having, so we need to adjust that lag by adding interest received. Then we have to subtract NSF checks. NSF means not sufficient funds. Some checks might have already been included by the bank as by the company as something they have received, and the bank would have sent it for collection to the customer's account, but the customer may not have enough funds. And when that happens, we also know these checks to be as bounce checks. It comes back with no payment credited to the bank account. So right now, those NSF checks are being reflected as monies that has already been received in this beginning balance, and we need to take that off by subtracting NSF checks. We also need to subtract um, or add, before that, we have to subtract bank service fees. Sometimes the bank levies some service fees automatically, which we are not aware of. So the bank service fees is something that the company is not aware of, which we need to subtract from this side, the company's cash balance side. And then there might be electronic fund transfers that have taken place directly from the customer to the bank, which we need to add. Electronic fund transfers, which are like direct deposits. So electronic fund transfers sometimes also need to be subtracted depending on the situation. For example, unrecorded electronic fund transfers have to be subtracted. And then you have company errors. The company could have also made some errors which may come to light later, and those have to be added or subtracted as well. And this gives rise to the adjusted balance. Now, this adjusted balance here on the company's cash balance should be equal to the adjusted balance on the bank side. Only then you know that you have actually done this process correctly. So it is always possible to come up with the adjusted balance on the bank side and the cash side and compare it on the company side and the bank side and make sure that your recordings are correct. But these are the main categories to understand. Some of the other things we have to know about in this chapter, not being covered in this recording, is petty cash, Sarbanes-Oxley Act, and how and why cash is an important account and how is it different, because it is more prone to theft and pilferage. So all these are covered in the textbook, and it is important that the student knows those parts as well. This is the bulk of chapter 4, which focuses on bank reconciliation. Finally, it is important to remember that on the company side, electronic transfer of funds or electronic fund transfers can also lead to something that has to be subtracted. For example, the company might instruct the bank to pay its expenses directly. So this has to be subtracted on the company side, because the bank is aware of this, and this is already incorporated into the bank's balance, but not yet into the company's accounts. So electronic fund transfers can be a negative or positive depending on the situation. One has to read the question to figure out whether it's leading to an increase in the account or decrease in the account, and this takes place on the company's side.